On this episode of Interviews on USN, we reconnect with Chris Brown, sports artist for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame.
I'm Chris Brown. I'm the artist for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and sports artist. On my website is chrisbrownsportsart.net. And of course, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all those are Chris Brown Sports Art. So I do have a social presence out there, but that's what I do. Of course, you can see a few of my pieces behind me, and these are recently signed pieces by these athletes and coaches. So I would display those.
Okay. Well, when we left last time, you were just finishing the piece on Joe Delaney. So, and I've seen it, but for those who haven't seen it, how did that turn out, and what kind of reception did you get from that?
It turned out really good. I was really, really happy with it. It was just such a huge piece, literally and figuratively. So the piece itself was 6 feet tall, so it was as tall as I was, and that's the biggest I've ever done. They did an exceptional job with the unveiling. They kind of had a press day at Northwestern State and invited some of his old teammates and obviously the press and had some of his old teammates get up there and talk about him and then how much the painting meant to them, that it was going up in the school, and it was really good. I was extremely happy with how they did things.
Well, now for those that don't know, that is your alma mater as well.
Yes, sir.
So that has a little extra feeling for you, doesn't it?
It does, and we shared a number. I was 37 and he was 37, so it was there's definitely a connection there, even though he and I never had a chance to meet. Him passing away before really I was old enough to know what was even going on. So,
well, now if we're looking behind you, how did you decide which? And I see 3 of them, and your head's blocking the one on the top. So I see, is that Peyton Manning? Oh, Les Miles. All right, and is
Les
that
Miles?
Side?
That's Archie.
Drew Brees. Okay. Now, how do you make those distinctions of this is the pose the picture we're going to use?
Well, first off, for me, it's I want to enjoy creating the piece. So, when I'm filtering through photos that I can use as reference, I find something, things catch your eye. And as an artist, I know what I like to do, and I know now after doing so many, I know kind of what's going to work, what's not, what kind of things I like. So if I see a photo, I'm like, man, that's great. That captures emotion. That's, the coloring's good, the lighting's great. You can really see details, those kind of things. Sometimes it's, I've done this before, but I really like these jerseys. So occasionally I'll switch the jersey on them.
Okay.
So, if I've done like the Broncos, it was funny when I did the Peyton Manning piece, the one behind me, I had a lot of people, well, why didn't you do the Colts?
Right. That was what I was going to ask.
You got a 50% fan base that's diehard Colts, and they don't associate him with the Broncos at all. And I was just like, well, I'd already done one with the Colts,
right.
But I wanted to do one of the Broncos, so I did.
Artistic license. I'm drawing it. I can do what I want, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Now we were talking off air how busy you've been. Kind of detail the things we've done or you've done since the unveiling of the Joe Delaney piece and where you've gone from there.
Okay, so we had the induction ceremony for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. 8 inductees, Dave Dixon Award winner. So I did all their portraits for them. And, of course, at the ceremony, we have a big press day there, too, and I get to meet them all. Peyton actually came in a day later. So first time I hear that, I'm like, oh, great. Now I have to chase him down. And he had already agreed to sign the painting for me. And there was a stipulation there. He signs for 2 companies. And so his deal was, I'll sign, but you can't sell it.
Right.
Oh, well, you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
These are going in shows.
Right.
And he was fine with it. He signed an extra print for me for my son.
Cool.
Which my son's about to turn 4. He didn't know who Peyton Manning is, but eventually he will.
He will, right.
And he actually took the time to meet my wife and my son and those kind of things. So,
cool.
So the ceremony was great. 800, I think it was like 850 or 860 people were at the ceremony itself. I got to get on stage and help present a piece to Skip Bertman.
Okay.
They had Skip there, and Skip's kind of getting up there a little bit in age, and we wanted to recognize him, you know, for everything he's done. And I got to personally thank him for what he did for baseball in general. You know, I mean, you talk about somebody who just really put LSU baseball on the map, and it's never changed. So, and LSU made a lot of people like college baseball.
Oh, yeah.
You know? So it was really cool, and I actually had him sign a piece for me too. I had 6 pieces signed this year, which was a lot for me. But Skip Bertman, Danielle Scott. Danielle Scott was a 5-time Olympian volleyball player, and at one time, I think for like a 10-year stretch, she was the #1 player in the world. And you want to talk about opposing figure,
right?
You know, some of these, like Peyton's tall. When I met Shaq, of course, that was unreal. But Danielle's like 6'5".
Right.
You know, and you always think, yeah, volleyball player, she's gonna be tall, but 6'5".
And every inch of it, yeah.
Right. Yeah. But one of the nicest people I've ever met. So it was just a really cool event, and I couldn't have been happier with how it went. Les Miles is Les Miles. You know, he doesn't take that Mad Hatter off ever.
Right. That's cool.
Super nice. You know, gave me his opinion of the paintings, and he was really happy with them. Archie came because obviously Peyton was going in, and I've had the painting of Archie for a long time, and it was always one of my favorites. Just how it turned out, you know, it was just such a good piece in my mind. And so I found out he was coming and that he was going to be going to the museum after it closed, so Peyton could personally show him around. He had never seen the museum itself.
Okay.
And so I was like, So I set it up with the mayor of the town, Mayor Posey, who knew this was all going on, and he knew the driver and those kind of things. And so the driver was able to talk to Archie, and Archie knew about it. And so I got to sit cooler than really of them signing and taking pictures with me. The coolest moment of that whole thing was I got to sit back and watch Peyton and Archie just walk around the museum by themselves, you know, and Peyton would tell them and point out things, and just seeing that father-son thing was just a special moment, you know. Like, how many people get to sit and watch Archie and Peyton just
be father and son,
yeah. You know? Yeah. So it was really cool. And then the next month, a couple weeks ago, I got to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame, invited as an artist, which is unreal for me, because I'm always thrilled when I can accomplish something that I could never accomplish as a baseball player.
Right.
You know, if I can do something with my artwork that I couldn't do as a baseball player, kind of like the Beckett magazine thing. You know, I always thought, yeah, if I'm going to be in Beckett magazine, it's going to be as a baseball player. It's not going to be as an artist. And so I did that, and that was mind-blowing. And then getting to go to the Baseball Hall of Fame, Lee Smith's family invited us to go, and we got to attend the Cubs party for him the day before the ceremony. And that was, man, you talk about, like, I was like a kid, you know, walking around. Ryan Sandberg, Andre Dawson, Fergie Jenkins, you know, Tom Ricketts, the owner of the Cubs. I mean, just to be in a room like that, and they're just kind of just hanging out and talking to everybody like, you know, like anybody else. And, you know, of course, they're not letting everybody in that place. So,
right.
It was, you know, I was just kind of in awe. And then, you know, spending time with Lee, you know, and I had actually never met Lee, but he'd seen my artwork. And for one of the first things he said was how great of an artist I was. And, you know, that just, you know, that's what we want.
Oh, yeah.
As an artist. So I was just pleased. And there's another massive human being.
I was going to say another large person, right? Yeah.
Yeah, his hands, it's kind of like Shaq. His hands were as big as my head. It was just, but what a teddy bear, just super nice. I mean, just takes the time to ask you how you're doing and those kind of things. And so, yeah, it was just unreal. I mean,
well, I think what you find out, and this is what I find, is that when you start talking to these people, and I say these people in general, but the sports figures that we grow up and admiring, or even admire after we've been grown up, is that they're just regular people and sports fans as well.
Right.
So when you put them all in the same room at the same time, they're fans of the people that are fans of them.
Yeah.
And fans of the people that follow them as well. You know, and I'm sure when Lee Smith gets to hear your background, it's like, but you pitched for, oh, well, okay. So now you got that pitcher thing in common, you know,
right.
That's a great thing.
There's a little connection there. And Ryan, when I went up to talk to Ryan Sandberg, I got to tell him, because I'm sure he didn't remember, but so he's been the Phillies manager and everything else since then. So, and like when I was in the minor leagues, I stood out to him, so I got to tell him the story about the first time we met, and it was actually when I was a player. He got hired at the time as a spring training coach,
Okay.
And so he walks out on our field, we're just over there, our peons and A-ball, and I instantly see it. I was like, man, Ryan Sandberg is on our field.
Is on our field.
Like, wow. Like God just walked up, and everybody's just staying away from him.
Right.
Nobody. And I was just like, I'm just like, I don't care if I got to run laps or what. I'm going. So I just walked up to him, and I literally got to tell him how much of a hero he was to me growing up, and asked him what he was doing, and he said, well, I'm just playing golf. That's all I do. So I got to this time tell him that story, and I told him, I was like, of all the things that happened to me in spring training, that's like the first thing I tell people I got to do. So, I was like, I got to meet you. and he thought that was pretty cool. So,
but he didn't say, oh, I remember that.
no. I knew instantly I was going to have to remind him of who I was.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, all the thousands of people that come up to it, right? I understand that. But yeah, so we're talking. See, and this is the thing that I appreciate about what you do. I mean, I'm looking at, again, the portrait you have behind you, and then you throw in the Cubs, and then you throw in, Joe Delaney, you throw in Ed Reed, you throw in all, and it seems like it's a never-ending process of I got to meet, or I got to talk to, and then I got to work with. I mean, it's got to be fascinating.
It's, growing up, I obviously didn't envision any of this, getting to meet any of these people. I think everybody would want to.
Right.
But it's not something, I come from a really small town in Nebraska, 8,000 people. And, really from that, you don't come out going, I'm going to be doing this and this and this and this, I always did say, yeah, I'm going to be a pro baseball player. That was my goal. But as an artist, I even in college, you don't come out of going, I'm going to be, one of the top sports artists, or I'm, that kind of stuff. You just don't, it's just not. So I'm still very humbled by it and blown away by it. Every chance I get to meet these people and talk to them, I always remember, I was a kid on the other side of that little town that nobody expected anything from. So,
well, what we're doing with these series of interviews with various different people, we're advocating the passion of, okay, just go for it. If you go for it, it may not turn out the way you think it's going to turn out, but you open up another avenue. And as we talked before, okay, so you didn't make the Hall of Fame as a pitcher. Oops. But you still got in the Hall of Fame, and several Halls of Fame, I guess is the way you're supposed to say it. So that to me is, follow your passion. You don't know what's going to happen, but you're on that path. And, again, when we talked about meeting Shaq for the first time, that, and I guess, I've seen YouTube videos of Shaq dancing in the crowd, but you don't get to just walk up on somebody and go, hey, oh my goodness, that's a large person, but you find out he's just a good dude, right?
Yeah, and one of my heroes. Shaq was. I know some people didn't like him as a player just because he played against them. He played against their team. You know, that's about the only reason you couldn't like Shaq is because he beat your team. But I grew up kind of a Lakers fan because it was Magic and Kareem, and and then obviously Shaq goes there and wins the championships, and I couldn't have been happier. Just most dominant player in basketball at the time. So, yeah. Well,
it's funny you mentioned Skip Bertram, and then I'll throw Dale Brown in there as well. I'm from North Central Ohio, no ties to Louisiana whatsoever. But for Skip, I remember the Ben McDonald's years, and then all that came with that. And you start following that team. And Dale Brown, the High Carters and those Howard Carters, and then you get to Shaq and Chris Jackson and Stanley Roberts and all. And you go, I still follow them in my head. I may not look online every day. It's like once I see the purple and gold, I go, oh well, there's what's going on in LSU. And those are the kind of people, like you said, that they build a foundation. It's nice to see that they're recognized, but they actually do something for the community and for us as fans.
Right. Yeah. And when I found out when Shaq went in was all the different things that he was doing that he doesn't let anybody know about.
Right.
He does so much for so many people that, and that's, I think that's a real true sign of character when they do it without people knowing.
Right.
It's not always, some people do it and they want to make sure there's a camera there to catch it so everybody knows about it, and he's doing so much that nobody even knows he's doing. I mean, that's just, to me, that's a real true sign of good character.
And that's a Drew Brees, for example.
Yeah.
You know that he's doing a lot, but he's doing a lot more than what we know about. So, yeah,
right.
That's really cool. All right, so what's up next? Are you going to take a little time off, or are you jumping back into it?
I don't really get too much time.
Stupid question, right?
Which is good. I've been working on one piece all summer, which tells you what kind of piece it is. Because my piece is usually, I can usually knock them out in about a week, but this one's been all summer. And it's a commission piece, and it's 4 feet by 3 feet. It's a pretty good sized piece.
Okay.
But it's got 13 different LSU figures in it. Okay, so I created it on the computer first on Photoshop. And so for some of them, I had to use models for their bodies because I didn't have the shot that I needed. Because the whole idea, the premise is they're all in this room together. The coaches are sitting at a table talking. There's some players over on this side of the room standing and talking. And then there's some players in the background around a Heisman Trophy that are sitting there talking. And then there's a huge window in the back that opens up behind them. And it says, "Welcome to Death Valley." And it's the stadium. You can see out onto the stadium. So it's almost like it's one of the conference rooms there at the stadium. You can look out. It's got the old Tiger logo on the wall, and one of their, the Tiger eye that's on the field.
Right.
That's on the floor below them. So it's a lot of detail, but I've gotten to where I'm about to do all their little faces. But you've got guys like Billy Cannon sitting in the back, talking to Kevin Falk.
Wow.
Never happened. And Les Miles and Nick Saban and Bo Ryan, which most people don't know, got hired as the LSU coach, but never coached a game. He died in a plane wreck, right? So he's actually sitting at the table as well. And so it's just a real cool. And the guy that commissioned me had the idea for it. And then we started talking about it. I'm like, well, let's kind of do this. And he and I springboarding back and forth. His name's Roy. And so he and I just talking back and forth, we've just kind of spun this into what we've kind of wanted. And it took a long time just to plan it and actually create it on the computer first.
Cool.
But once I got that done, then I tore into it. But he kept wanting to add more and more people. And I kept telling him, the more people you add, the bigger this thing has to get.
Right.
Because I don't like doing little bitty faces.
Right.
And so we ended up 13 people. And it's also got their three national championship trophies sitting on pedestals along the wall. And so that's been taking me a little while. But I'm hoping to be done with that in the next couple of weeks, probably.
Okay. Cool.
And then I'll be showing everybody that. And the prints are already being sold, and we're going to be selling the prints for $300 a piece, which some people might find really expensive. But what I've noticed though is people are buying my prints, and then they're getting them signed, and then they're turning around and selling them for $1,500.
Right.
So for me to ask $300, I don't think is unreasonable. It's only going to be kind of a limited, print. So first edition prints, there's only going to be a limited number. So they're already going, and I haven't finished yet. So it's a good situation for me, but it does put a little pressure on me too.
Well, a little pressure's good. You stole my thunder there. You said the Heisman Trophy winner, then you went away from it. I thought I was going to get to interject my LSU knowledge and throw Billy Cannon out there, but you got it. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, here's the cool thing about this too. Billy Cannon and Bo Ryan's wives know about it, and they've already set it up to where they're going to get a print.
Okay, cool.
I mean, how cool is that?
That is cool. That is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty excited about that.
Okay, so when we last spoke, you were kind of formulating the idea of how you can do this as we were talking almost as a franchisee kind of thing. How's that going on?
Talking about
or are you too busy to really think about it?
Doing the shows you're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, I have one next month.
Okay.
So
then it's working.
Yeah, the first show that I'll have where every piece in the show is signed. Nothing's for sale. I'm going to be selling prints. That's going to be the only thing that can be purchased.
Okay.
So it's really just a show. It's not, some people show their work because they're trying to sell it. I'm not trying to sell any of this. I don't want to sell any of this.
Well, as we were talking, like as a gallery kind of thing, right? Okay.
Right. And so the gallery owner approached me about it. It's actually somebody I've known for a while. And so, it's different than, that's the first thing she said. Like, this is totally different than anything we've ever shown, because it's all been abstract art and watercolors and, your typical kind of thing. And so knowing that I was a sports artist when they approached me about it, I said, well, okay, well, this is gonna take it up a notch because you're gonna get a whole different crowd.
Right.
You're gonna get people who are only interested in sports and seeing the signatures, and then you're gonna get people who are also interested in the art, and then there's people that are just interested in just sports art. And so it's a different crowd. So I said, you need to be aware of that. Some people won't have, the gallery etiquette that you're probably used to.
Right.
And I said, security is going to be something that's going to have to be, I can't have somebody walking out of the gallery with my Peyton Manning signed piece.
Right.
These things are literally one of a kind, irreplaceable. I wouldn't be able to sit down and do it exactly like it was done.
Right. You can't.
Time.
Right.
You can't.
You can't.
It's impossible. So, so they're aware of that, and the, issues are things are being taken so that nothing walks out the door.
So instead of serving tea and crackers at the gallery, you're going to have like Bud Light and beef jerky and go from there. All right.
Wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, yeah, but it's as we talked about, I think it's a heck of an idea because I know enough galleries in enough towns. Again, galleries in NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball towns. Why not? I think you'd really get a lot of people coming out. And if it becomes a roving show or however you want to do it, like a roving exhibition, I think it's going to be fantastic. And I can really see that taking off, especially when you're looking at the material that you're using or that you're working on, the mediums that you're using. So I think it's going to be wonderful.
I think it's unique, and it might open up some avenues for other sports artists because I don't know if I'm sure all of them. I've never met anybody that's on a professional level that doesn't want people to see their work.
Right.
So now, whether they think that they can get in a gallery and show it, that's probably another thing. We're all very aware as sports artists that galleries snub their nose at us.
Sure.
So, I was actually able to visit a little bit with the rep for the Baseball Hall of Fame artist. He and I kept missing each other a little bit. I spoke to his wife and I spoke to his rep and kind of found out what he was doing, but his situation is a little different too because he's not, he doesn't have anything literally in the Hall of Fame. His artwork doesn't go in the museum.
Right.
But he's the Hall of Fame artist, so they have a little different relationship, because their thing is the big plaques on the wall, and
right, and to not have stuff
cool.
in the background.
Yeah. So, and he's fantastic. He does a great job. So it's always interesting to see where people are, and that would be another guy that I could see, getting into galleries because his work's real high quality. Obviously if he's the Baseball Hall of Fame artist, he better be good.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll open up some avenues for other people, and then you'll start seeing sports art shows pop up, all over the country. That would be pretty good.
Well, I can see it happening, and I can think of at least half a dozen places where I know it would work well. And I've talked to, since we've spoken, I've talked to a couple of people, just, kind of like, here's what Chris is doing. Maybe this is something you might be able to do too. So, I've got a couple of people that I'm hopefully going to talk to in the next couple of days after we do this and kind of say, now we can see that the groundwork has been laid. Maybe you can do something as well. So I think it's a great idea.
Right.
Okay, now I'm going to ask.
Why not?
Well, it's, again, we're all, I think, as sports fans and just as fans in general, we all have the same sensibilities of what we like and what we don't like. And some of us may be loath to go to an art gallery, but if you go to an art gallery and see something that you like, you may want to come back. So if I'm running an art gallery, like, I can grab another segment of the population that I haven't been able to get before.
Right.
So I think
and two, most people don't even know this, but there's a room in Cooperstown at the Baseball Hall of Fame Museum that's baseball art.
Right.
So I wasn't even aware of it, and I had been there before. So lucky to find it, saw the sign, went in there, and I got to see one of my favorite Norman Rockwell paintings. The umpire standing there with the rain falling on his hand, right? And the two managers are in the back, and one's laughing and pointing up. So I get to see that. I posed with that. I mean, what a thrill. Leroy Neiman piece was in there. And talking about Leroy, that's a guy that has been in museums and the major, not just local galleries, but he's at the Kimball,
right,
in Fort Worth and things like that. So, that's the goal, is to get to where high-end museums, not just galleries, but high-end museums are also wanting to display your work because you get to that point,
Well, I ran across a site for former Olympians that are artists. And if I can remember where I bookmarked it, I'll send you the site, send you the link. But it was kind of that same thing of, when you're done, or if you want to call it, I don't think we're ever done being an athlete, but when you're transitioning, what do you do and what do you become? And again, we're talking about the passion of, well, I have these skills as well. How can I combine what I did before with what I want to do now? So,
and that's either get into coaching or find something completely different. I got to meet Jim Leyritz, played for the Yankees and Cubs and a few other teams. Another guy, just super, super nice. Sit there and talk to me for a while, and he's doing some kind of I want to say real estate kind of thing. He's not buying houses and selling houses, but kind of a high end, maybe corporate thing or something. But lives in Orange County, but flies out to New York, and he's like 2 weeks there, 2 weeks back, and but baseball afforded him to be able to do stuff like that, and I think if more athletes realize I have the capital right now, I should jump on the opportunity to invest into something that I can take care of myself the rest of my life, as opposed to, well, I'm just going to live off this, never change my lifestyle. And then the next thing you know, you wake up and you're like, I don't have any money.
Right. Not everyone has the luxury of being Bobby Bonilla and getting that $1 million check every year.
Yeah, 1.2 or 1.5, something like that. A Bobby Bonilla day. That is still so mind-boggling to me. But hey, if you can do it, I guess. But okay, so you've kind of given a couple of hints, but who would you like to come across next, or just come across now? Who's the next goal, the next big bear to slay? Yeah, well, there's a couple guys on the radar for the Hall of Fame, but they're not going to be eligible until they stop playing. So Drew Brees, I want to get Eli.
Right.
I've already done an Eli painting, and it's literally, it sits in the same storage unit as these two. So when I can get Eli to sign his, then I'll have all three. That's a big trilogy. So when I go to set that up in the gallery or a show, boom, 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 right next to each other. How cool is that? But through a former teammate of mine in college, who obviously went on to play for the Padres, Brian Lawrence.
Okay.
So Brian played with Trevor Hoffman when he was there, and I was talking to Brian. I said, Brian, I want to do a painting of you. I want you to sign it. And I said, as a friend, I'm just asking you, is there anybody else you know of that you can get, that would be willing to do this, knowing that they're going in shows, I'm not a big fan of just walking up and, for myself anyway, walk up and say, sign this. You know, I just want to have something you sign.
Right.
That's not my goal. My goal is sign this painting and we're going to display it.
Right.
You know, so because he's like, well, I can get you Trevor.
Okay.
Like, Hoffman? And so he's like, yeah. And so I was like, wow, all right. And of course, Trevor was at the Hall of Fame ceremony, but there's no way I was going to get near him. He didn't know
Right.
me yet. So, so that's kind of the thing. I want to get set up to where I go out, get Trevor and Brian, trying to set up a few more things. We might do something with Lee. The Hall of Fame already wants to kind of do something with Lee and get a painting done and have him sign it. And Lee's I think he's a roving pitching coach in the Giants organization.
Yeah,
so,
right.
You know, I would love to get Will Clark. You know, Will went into our Hall of Fame a while back, but I was always a Will Clark fan. So I'm just looking to, I guess a weird way of saying this is I'm looking to slay dragons. So
Right, exactly.
for me, I'm trying to get the biggest and the best that I can possibly get, you know, just for the sake of, you know, I'm a fan, and what better way to do this than have some of the best in the business, you know, sign your work.
Well, it's kind of you're heading the same direction I'm heading in. You know, I want to talk to everybody. And if you're the groundskeeper at at wherever, whatever field you want to call it, that's cool. And I want to talk to you. But
right.
Yeah, I want to talk to that guy that what made you or makes you tick. You know, that how did you transition from this to this to this? And then what's the parallels between being a player, being afterwards, you know, being a parent, you know, they're all the same. You know, you have to have something that keeps you going. That's why we find them compelling. You know, and I'm the same way. I'm going to upset all the memorabilia people out there. I don't care if I've got baseball cards back from the 70s, 60s actually. I don't care if I ever sell them. I don't care if they're ever signed. They mean something to me. And I would love to have my picture taken with that guy in that card. And that would be good for me. You know, and
I could have walked around that room asking for autographs.
Right.
You know, I want the picture.
Right.
You know, anybody can walk in. Like I have a Jimmy Pearsall signed card.
Oh, wow.
But the difference with that is he gave it to me.
Right.
I didn't ask for it. You know,
Right.
I was lucky enough to be in the organization when he was hitting balls to the outfielders. Well, he was already in his 80s. He had to hit from behind second base. So, you know, he needed somebody to watch his back because it was always during batting practice. And I ended up being that guy a lot of times. And so, as cantankerous as he was, we got along pretty well. And this one day he walked up and gave me a signed card, and now I treasure that.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, Jimmy passed away last year, and, you know, I never got to talk to him again. So that's something I look up on that shelf, and it reminds me of something, you know. So I've got a few signatures, but they, you know, most of them mean something to me.
Well, I've got a Reggie Jackson, not the rookie card, but his second year when the A's became the A's.
Right.
And I just want to have him holding the card up next to his face. I don't even have to be in the picture myself. I just want to have Reggie Jackson with that card, because that card means so much to me. I want to have Reggie Jackson touch my card. Then that's good enough. He doesn't have to sign it. He doesn't have to ever speak to me. Just go, yeah, I saw it, kid. Boom, there you go. That's good enough for me. So that's, you know, but that's a different generation. You know, we appreciated the person, not the monetary value of that piece of work. So yeah. Well, okay. One last question before I let you go. I know you got a lot to do. When we transition to the next thing, as far as, you know, whether it be the next Hall of Fame show or the next thing you're able to do, to whom do you want to say, I got you. I understand what you're doing now, Chris. What does that mean to you right now? I mean, who comes to you, like you said, Jimmy Pearsall gives you a signed card. That means something. Who's the next person that jumps in and says, I understand what you're doing?
As far as from like the media or from the athletes?
Or just in general, whatever you think. What I don't want to call it validates what you're doing, but you'll know now.
Okay, so it's interesting you'd say that. I had a conversation with my dad, and you know, I heard Deion Sanders say one time, well, in his Hall of Fame speech for Canton, He said, if people don't think there's something wrong, or if they don't think your dreams are crazy, then there's something wrong with your dreams, right? That always stuck with me.
Right.
Like, yeah, why can't you dream of things that people don't think you should be doing? You know, if you don't have that goal to go for, then you're certainly not going to reach it.
Right.
You know, so there used to be a time when artists and even comic book artists and those kind of people would show up on Johnny Carson and David Letterman and those kind of things. So I started telling my dad, I was like, yeah, I want to get on, you know, Jimmy Kimmel or something like that. It's like, that would be, you know, you talk about national exposure and
right. Oh yeah.
You know, that would be validation is, you know, we want everybody to see this guy, you know, and see his work. And so that would be, you know, that's a goal. As crazy as that goal may be, that's a goal.
It's the correct me if I'm wrong. It's the idea of being mainstream without being mainstream.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it is bringing something, again, that people they just don't think, like when they think the National Museum of Art and those kind of places, they certainly don't think sports art.
Right.
So the ultimate goal has to be to get to where my work or sports artist work is represented in places like that. And then when people think, they stop thinking sports art as something separate than, you know, art. People think art, and then they think about sports art as being some kind of something separate for some reason. And,
well,
and it's not. It's just not. It's just a different subject that means, you know, something to so many other people.
If I'm trucking through the Smithsonian and I'm going through the history section, the history of our country has athletics as a big part of it. Yet I'm sure there's not a lot of athletics artists represented. And I think that's just what you're saying. It's like, okay, this is such a big part of what we're doing. And then there's a snapshot here, a picture there. But, you know, true art as a representation isn't there. So I think that's, yeah, you're right. That's kind of the next step of where we go from there. So. Right.
You know, getting Sports Illustrated still out there, and obviously ESPN. You know, I actually had a friend of mine, recently met friend. I consider him a friend because he's a sports artist, but he did work for ESPN, and they had, you know, you remember the Best Damn Sports Show?
Yep.
Okay, so he had a lot of his work kind of in the background and stuff like that. And that's awesome. That's unbelievable. But getting on, you know, Golic and Wingo or something like that and talking and just sitting there and talking like you and I are about my artwork and sports art in general, that's something that would be fantastic, you know.
We'll see if we can help build you up, and maybe we build ourselves up to the point where the goal is to be on our show again.
Well, absolutely. I like being on your show. I like talking to you. You're a lot of fun to talk to.
Well, now I'm going to cry. Well, like I said, I know you got a lot to do, and my phone just rang for the next thing I've got to do. So,
okay.
You know what, when I thought about it, I said, let's revisit. And I thought, well, it's had to have been 6 or 7 months since I talked to you. It's only been a couple months. You know, I didn't realize.
It goes fast, though. It did for me anyway. I mean, you turn around, the next thing you know, you're about to start the fall again, you know, and the next Hall of Fame class is coming up, and I'll probably find out next month who's going in. So that's Christmas for me, you know?
Yeah. Well, the reason it seemed like so long to me, because I was reading all the things that you've done. It's like, well, you've accomplished a lot in the last it's only been 2 months. Okay. So yeah, lots going on.
Well, lots been going on, but that's a good thing. That's a good problem to have, you know. I don't, if there's a lull, something's not, you know, then I'm not doing the PR part of my job and
right.
those kind of things. So,
right.
You know, and that's something too that I quickly throw out there is that most artists don't realize the PR side of things. You know, unless you have somebody that's going to represent you, and most people don't. I don't. I wouldn't mind it, you know, because the PR side of it's 50 or 60% of the time.
Right. Right.
You know, so you got to understand going into that you have to be willing to go out there and show people your work and just keep putting it in people's face. You know, eventually, you know, what your goal is eventually is to get in front of the right people. and they either want to buy it or they want to show it, you know, but you become more popular that way. If you're always sitting back and not willing to show anybody your stuff, then that's where you're going to stay.
And there is a business aspect to it, because obviously you're a businessman as well. You can't be an artist, or that's where the phrase starving artist came from, and no one wants to be that.
No.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
sure.
you once again. I like I said, it's like you said, it's fun talking to you as well. And you know what? The fun part about it is that you've taken that, okay, this is what I like, and this is what I'm good at. And a lot of people do that. They don't take those two things and mold them together. So now you're doing something that's positive, and then look at all the people you get to. To me, that's the fantastic thing. You're doing something positive for them, and then you get to meet people that, as we were talking about earlier, that you never thought you'd meet before.
No
It's
doubt.
really cool.
No doubt. I got to meet Dr. J when I was in high school because he came to a convention we were at, and he was the speaker. He shook everybody's hand in the whole place, you know, and I was like, oh, wow, you know, like unbelievable. He'd been retired for years already at that point, but everybody knows Dr. J, you know, right. and it was just cool. But even then I thought that's probably it. You know,
I've met the biggest guy I'm going to meet. Right.
Right. And just this summer alone, I mean, if you just look at all the people I met just this summer,
right,
you know, it blows me away. I think when it stops blowing me away, then I'm in a bad place.
Well, but see, here's what's going to happen. If it stops blowing you away, by that time, you've left a legacy for your son to blow him away.
Yeah, maybe that's my next goal.
Yeah.
If I can start getting to do some athletes that he knows,
right,
you know, that are currently playing, then that would be cool too.
It's a never-ending story.
You always want your son to say, "Yeah, that's my dad."
That's cool,
you know,
Dad. Yeah,
he's
right.
proud of it. Right.
Well, we'll leave it on that. I'll get this posted for us in a little bit. And again, I appreciate it. When you hear the next class, let me know what's going on. We'll reconvene then.
That'd be awesome.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Anytime you want me on.
All right.
You want me on.
We'll do some PR work for you.
All right. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
thank you,
Thanks
man.
for having me on too.
All right. We'll talk to you later.